I'm back. I don't know whether somebody's mucking around with me here now, or whether it's my fault, but I seem to have become Polish. And I'll probably get a phone call tomorrow from something saying they're from Windows, my computer from Windows, Microsoft Windows, to put right the faults on your computer. And I have a suspicion that this is a fraud, and that the faults that you get on your computer are put on by them in the first place. So I'm going to dial 101 and see. No, is it one? No, 111 or 101? One of those anyway, and ask the police about it. Anyway, I've just got my camera out. It's a digital Samsung digital DVD camera, little tiny one, but it's autofocus, and the bloody autofocus keeps changing. But it does have an advantage that the webcam doesn't have. I can move it around and show you the sort of conditions I work under. Now, I've dealt with these. This is the latest thing before chips, cameras, digital cameras recorded onto a DVD, which is a 3.5-inch DVD as opposed to the 7-inch, I think it is, the standard DVDs. And but I first started on audiovisual, well, on visual anyway, in 1953, working in the cinema. I was a boy projectionist, and one of my jobs was the lights. You know, when you used to, I don't know if I still do it today, you go into the cinema and all the curtain would be down and the colours would change on the curtain and fade in and fade out. But that's the sort of thing I was doing, only I was extremely experimental, and I was doing things that getting colours that other people didn't know about, because I was colour mixing even then in 1953. And that was when I first came interested in 3D TV. Sorry, 3D. It was films. Now, I don't know if you know how 3D came about in the first place. The reason 3D came about was television. Television in 1953 showed the coronation, and that was the first time that the UK as a whole actually knew about television. People down here in Cornwall, I'm sorry, I wasn't in Cornwall, where was I in 1953, I was in Tiverton. That's Tiverton in Devon. And I worked in the Flea Pit, called the Electric Theatre. There were 2 cinemas in the town. And the advent of television started closing cinemas down, and they came out with this idea of 3D, which could not be shown on television, you see, because the initial ones were done in cyan and red. And the way that worked was that you had a glass that was red and a glass that was blue, a lens red, lens blue, and it works vice versa. The red cancels out the cyan and the cyan cancels out the red. But it only worked in black and white, you see. And then they came, sorry, it was not cyan, it was green. They then came out with a feature film called The House of Wax, starring Vincent Price. and it was about a waxworks museum where the waxworks came to life, rather like the there's been a series of films about museum where the things came to life recently, hasn't there? Probably where they got the idea from anyway. But this was an extremely good film in 3D. The only problem was that when you used two colour glasses, you had, in those days you had to use two colour glasses. That oh dear, I forgot. As you know, I don't use any notes. That affected the colours of the picture. You know what I mean? The other colours on the film, because it was a colour film, you see. And that was rare to start with, because the majority of films were in black and white in those days, in the 40s and 50s. And they came up with using red and cyan instead of red and blue. But it still was, you know, the colours were still not natural. Anyway, but it did work, and you got 3D in colour. Then they came up with another idea called polarization. Now, you've probably heard of the Land Polaroid camera and Land Polaroid sunglasses. Now, if you look at polarized sunglasses, you'll find that they're clear, but they still block out the sun. Now, the reason for this is polarization. Now, all satellite stations, the reason they can get so many on there, they can get double the stations on a satellite by using polarization. They either vertical or horizontal polarization. You may have already seen this on, if you've had satellite TV for a long time, because when it first came out, your dish had to be polarized for both. Otherwise, you could only watch one. But they came out with this 3D system where they had two cameras, one with a vertically polarized lens and the other with a horizontally polarized lens. And they then made these Polaroid glasses, which was the Land Polaroid glasses. It's the same company that made the Land camera, you know, the Polaroid camera that gave you instant pictures, with one lens vertical and the other lens horizontally polarized. And because of that, the polarized vertical could only see vertical and the horizontal could only see the horizontal. So you could put two pictures on the screen quite close together, and one eye would see one picture and the other eye would see the other picture. Although even though they were overlapping, because they were polarized difference, you saw two different pictures. The only problem with that was, of course, two cameras, two projectors. You had to have two projectors, and it was quite complicated setting up the projectors for the screen, because depending on how you set them, if you set them too far apart, you'd have ludicrous 3D, you know, going over the top of your head, or you wouldn't have enough. That's how they work it on the TV today. You know, if you watch this so-called 3D that you get with these glasses, what they're actually doing, they switch from one eye to the other at high frequency. I think probably 50 times a second. If they're any good, it would be. And unfortunately, that gives me headaches, and I think it'll affect other people's eyesight. So, in 1993, I saw the BBC system that they tried out, called the Phillips effect. Now, the way this worked was, if you pan a camera slowly and use a dark lens on one eye, the dark lens delays the light to the eye just a fraction of a second, a millisecond, and that eye sees a slightly different position of the camera to the other eye, so you get the effect of 3D. But if you can watch this video if you've never seen it. I've put it up. It's a BBC video, Doctor Who, and it's quite amusing because it was made in 1993, and one of the years they were switching was every 20 years. So they had 20 years into the past and 20 years in the future, and they wound up with EastEnders in 2013. Slightly different to what it really was. But you had all the different doctors in from the original. The only one that wasn't in it was William Hartnell, because he'd already died. But they still use pictures of him, a photograph of him in it, just to get all the doctors in, because every doctor up till 1993. I'm talking about Patrick Troughton, Tom Baker, Colin Baker, William Pertwee, I forget what his first name is, and I think that's about all. But they're all in this film at EastEnders, having gone 20 years into the future. Oh, there's also the little girl that was the original assistant to Doctor Who in it. But it is quite amusing, and if you go to my 3D system, my 3D playlist, and click on Doctor Who 3D, Aspects in Time, I think it's called, something like that. I had to do it in 2 parts, because when I put it up in 2007, you wouldn't allowed, I think it was tops 15 minutes or something anyway. So there's part 1 and part 2, but they're on the list one after the other consecutively, so you can watch one part, and that's actually the way the BBC showed it, because it showed it in one part, then you saw the next part the following day. And it is very, very easy to watch it in 3D. All you need is a pair of sunglasses, any pair of any dark glasses. I mean, I use my Elvis glasses, which you've probably seen moving, you know, dark lens. Anything with a dark lens over one eye, and the other eye, nothing. Unless, of course, you wear glasses. If you wear glasses, you'll need to wear glasses and still put the dark lens over your glass. I then came up watching this, and I thought, I'm terrific scientific background, you see, and I went back to basics, and if you have a problem, and I mean science, I do cooking and all sorts of that, and I use science in guitar playing. Science is the basis of everything, and if you go back to the basics, you can figure out certain things that may seem terribly complicated. So, I don't know if you've ever seen a 3D viewer, you know, one of these viewers that you view through, and there's 2 pictures, one for each eye. Well, I actually made a viewer that took an ordinary snapshot, right? Just an ordinary snapshot, like, you know, like a ordinary photograph, you know, the little tiny photo snaps that you used to take. Black and white, didn't matter whether it was black and white or colour. And I fitted this, the one end of it, and the other end, like a pair of binoculars, I made 2 holes for the eyes. You know, it's like a box that you hold up the eyes and view, and you look up to a light, and the light shines through the back of the picture. And when you look at the 2 pictures that they use for 3D, the difference between each of these pictures is extremely, you can hardly tell the difference. Very different. It's not, you know, they spot the difference, pictures that you, games that you play and you mark. It's much harder than that. No. And I thought to myself, well, if it's so close to if one eye is seeing a picture that's almost the same as the other, I then went back to my science as the way, because I don't know if you know it, but if you do electronics, audio visual, you virtually do the same as a doctor does for the eyesight and the hearing, because the 3D sound comes into it as well. But from my knowledge of that, you see, I knew that when the brain doesn't get a clear picture from this is actual science that's, well, I won't say it's fact, because there are no such thing as facts. They're only theories until they're proven to be wrong or right. But take it from me, it is a fact that the brain, I don't know if you know how your eyesight works, but everybody's eyesight all through life is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And your brain compensates. As you get older, it goes slightly out of focus, and the reason is the focal muscles in the eye, as you get older, get stiff, just like your muscles get stiff in your arms and legs, and they don't move so easy. Now you can actually make your eyesight last longer simply by exercising your eyes. And all you do is look at that, and then look at something in the distance, then focus it. Change your focus to close-up, and then the distance, focus, distance. Each time you do that, your eyes are acting like the camera lens when you focus forward and back. And as you get older, those muscles get weaker, and I've discovered that by doing that, look, hold your finger out almost up to your nose, focus on it the best you can, and then look at something in the distance. I'm looking at the computer and then back at my eye. And each time you do that, it's just like doing that to your arm, to exercise your arm muscles. And I hope you're still watching. And because of that, as you get older, they're able to move far enough to focus at different distances, from very far. Really, you need to look at your finger and look at the horizon miles away for the best results, because that's the sort of focus you need. Now, when people wear glasses, some people become short-sighted, some people become long-sighted. I'm long-sighted, but that's because I did so much transistor work on the small print, even though I had a magnifying glass and not to work on it. Meant that I was working close up all the time, and my eyesight was strained at close up stuff, but distance I'm great. And that explains that. Now, because of that, what happens is, as your focus, eye focus, gets worse and doesn't focus the image, your brain compensates for this. And you'll be amazed how much it can compensate. Some people in their 50s, 60s, and me in my 70s only barely need glasses. Sometimes I can even manage without them, better without glasses than I can with. For instance, this is glasses, by the way. This is glasses that Lloyd's outside clinic said I need to drive. When I tried driving in them, I nearly had an accident because I couldn't see properly. So I took them off. I had to phone the police, helpline, and ask them what the situation was. And said, technically, he said, if you're driving without your glasses, you're breaking the law. I said, well, In that case, I won't drive at all. But I had my eyes tested because I've got diabetes type 2. It's very mild. It's nothing serious or anything. It's just that I have to watch out on the sugar, and I never eat any refined products. I made my Christmas puddings this year using black treacle, which is molasses, which is the real beer. That's what sugar starts off as. A black molasses. And I mix unrefined sugar with I'm going to advertise Splenda because it works well with me, and I'm going to run down Canderel because it gives me the runs. It may not apply to everybody, but that's the case it is with me. I actually had an emergency fall. You probably noticed this on me at some time. Not everybody realizes this. This is an emergency button if I have a fall, and within 15 minutes there'll be either somebody, or if they can't contact anybody, paramedics will call. And I have to pay for that. Well, I don't pay for it. I have a nephew that pays for it, because he's a very nice person like me, and he's an IT expert, does spreadsheets and things like that, and he works for H Concern. He could get a job elsewhere as double or even triple, and because of that, H Concern put me on here. I don't know whether he pays anything at all or nothing, but they made a special case of it, and they let him fit the machine instead of, I could have fitted it myself, but it's only a case of screwing a thing to the wall with a speaker on it, and if I press this, the speaker will come on and ask me if I'm alright, what's happened, and I'll tell them, oh sorry, I did it accidentally, or because sometimes when you turn over in bed you can set them off, because they're supposed to be around your neck all the time. They say you can even use them in the shower, but I don't know. I'd rather not risk it, so I hang it on something right next to the shower, so even if I fall in the shower I can get to it. And I have had 3 falls. I had a very bad one in November, and I had another one about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and another one about a fortnight ago, all caused by in-ear balance, inner ear balance, caused by bloody doctors syringing me ears. 75 years without ear trouble. Even as a child I never had my ears done. All I did was use the medicated shampoo, and that was a cheap one, not a branded one. I think it was a diluted version of what's it called it. Anyway, I washed my hair in that for years. Every time I wash my hair in this shampoo, medicated shampoo, I wash my ears at the same time. And this infection was caused by having the ear syringed. So I said to my doctor, I said, oh, well, isn't somebody at fault here? Because surely if the equipment is sterilized and the water is sterile water, there should be no chance of infection. Oh, he said, when any water gets in the ear, it can cause this problem. Of course, that made me think, this sounds a bit fishy. Because when I wash my ears, when I had a shower and washed these ears out, I used to put my ear up to the shower head, left and right. And by the way, I always run the shower for a bit before getting in, and that makes sure that there is no bacteria in there. But I'd never had any trouble with my ears. I've been doing that for years. So how come that this blooming old so-called sterile water that they come with can cause this inner ear infection and cause me to have vertigo? And that's caused 3 falls. Well, I have already got the address and phone number of a solicitor that I'm phoning tomorrow, because that isn't the only thing I've got against them. I had the same doctor for 40 years, and nothing has gone right since he retired. And he virtually ran the place. Once he left, it's absolutely disintegrated. And when I went to see him, he would ask me, you see, what's wrong? I would say, I would give him my opinion, and I'd say that, and he would either agree or disagree. But if he disagreed, he would explain to me why he disagreed, and I'd probably say, yes, you're right, I'm sorry. And then another time it'd be the other way around. He'd say, yeah, you're right, that's a fact. And he went on a lot of courses, and he passed things that I taught him. He passed on to other ones, because he's not quite as old as I am. I was thinking he must have been 65 when he retired in 2012, and I'm 77 this year, so he's younger than me anyway. But I never saw any other doctor in that 40 years, and I've had 3 doctors since, and I hardly ever go to the doctors because I avoid them like a plague. But this doctor came out after I had the second fall, which was in the toilet, and I'd had diarrhea, and that was caused by begins with a tin, you know, a C, you know, what you put beans in, and then ends in hell, and it gave me diarrhea because my immune system rejects rubbish, and I couldn't get on the toilet in time, and I slipped. Funny enough, I slipped on this lino that I asked the chap why was it not smooth like the rest of my lino, and he said, oh, health and safety, we're not allowed to put a smooth lino in the bathroom because the danger of fall. Well, these idiots, there's another idiot that doesn't know the rules of science and that. Why do you think these cars use slick tires to go faster? Because a slick tire has more contact with the surface. So I've tried it on this, rub my slippers over the ordinary lino. I don't know whether it's lino these days, it's some sort of plastic, I expect. In the kitchen, I did in the bathroom, I nearly fell down again. And it's logical because of all these pits and pimples, there's only 50% of the surface in contact with your foot. That's another one I'm going to have a go at. I might even sue them. By the way, I won't take any money. The sort of person I hate is the sort of person who started off life like me, as having nothing, become a millionaire, and then vote Tory. There was somebody like some of these footballers, like these Dragon Den people, you know. I've stopped watching it because the greed is immense. They want 300%. Your markup's not good enough. Do you know what my markup was in my shop on things like ever-ready batteries? 25%. I never said 50% off or anything like that. I just put the price. And it turned out that my price was less than Tesco, half price. Well, I was friends with the rep, and he'd come to me just before the annual price increase, because that's another snidey thing these companies do. Every year there's an automatic price increase. Why, I don't know. There should never be. I'm going on a bit here, aren't I? I bet nobody's watching now, but you're gonna miss some of the best stuff. Another thing, where were we? Well, we done the TV. I didn't finish the 3D, did I? But you will find that if you use these glasses, now this is a very low thickness one. It's 100 diopters, I think they call them. That is to say, the thickness of the lens. And then I've got another one. They go up to ridiculous. This one is something like 350. Now, if you look, I'm looking at the picture now. Believe it or not, it's in 3D, but it's all blurred. It's still in 3D, yo. Now, you will need to, as I say, you get these for peanuts in the charity shop. You may even find your grand's old glasses and things like that. But this pair I put on now are the lowest there is. And you should not go above it unless you're not seeing 3D. And if you do something like that, right, you'll see it in 3D. If you don't think you're seeing 3D, close one eye and watch it go flat. You need to close, by the way, close the eye that's out of focus. Person with normal vision, the lens that would defocus your eye. Person that wears the glasses of that, their normal glasses, uses the lens like that. That'll be the good one, and that'll be out of focus, which is the way it works for me now. This is in focus, right? Close that eye, it's in focus, not 3D. Open that eye, it's in 3D. Close that eye, and it's 2D, but out of focus. You don't want to out of focus it too much. And the other thing is, the television 3D that they're selling today at ridiculous prices, and it really annoys me, because I'm sure they must have saw my video that I put up in 2008, I think it was, about how this worked. And there's a few people, I'm sure, have tried it and found it worked. In fact, I had a couple of comments that said it worked and that. I dare say that all these big companies are absolutely terrified. You just stop to think, what would happen to Samsung and all these big multinational TV and Sony, etc. And if they got all this development of these TVs, because now they're coming out now, they've developed the TV that you don't need glasses for. I can tell you how it works. You have a corrugated screen that's corrugated with a laser. You know that if you look at a DVD, you can see like very, very, very tiny grooves. Well, they use a screen like that, and magnified, it would look like that. Magnified 1,000 times, right? And what they do is they put one eye on there and the other eye on that side of it, and then when you look at the TV, one eye sees one side and the other side sees the other side. But it's so tiny, you know, because it's just like the lasers on a DVD, that it works. Now the interesting thing was, I was watching this, and this program describing it, how it worked, and the funny thing was that I was seeing this TV in 3D, and not only that, I was seeing the people that was watching the TV in 3D as well. Now, I was only wearing my ordinary glasses, which I'm now putting on, for viewing things at a distance. I use them for viewing my TV. I'm really a little bit too close to that for this to be in focus, but all lenses have a focal length. So when you're trying to get this 3D effect, and you haven't got room to be able to move those distances I said away from the screen, you know, like 30-inch 3 meters or 40-inch 4 meters and so on. What you do is you put the lens on, and so you move. What you do is you move until you get the best focal what's it. And if you're looking like I am at the computer now, you'll see yourself moving in and out and back, and it goes right back as well. Now, if you're unable to get to the correct focal distance, you can adjust the lens on your nose forward and back, and you can bring it into focus even if you're not the right distance away. But the further away you are, the greater the effect will be. And what can I go on anymore? I don't know. Anyway, I'm ringing a patent solicitor tomorrow to see what it's going to cost me to patent it. The simple patent will be using a lens to slightly defocus one eye or the other. Now, you don't need to worry about this. This is not for the benefit of the general public. This is I'm giving this to the world if it works. Right? Anybody can use it. Anybody can go to a charity shop and buy these glasses. That's why these companies don't want you to find out about it. But if you've watched 3D TV, if you've got a 3D TV and you've used these glasses, and especially if you've got headaches through watching them, and you can only watch them for a short period of time, this is your answer. Because you can use your 3D TV, and you can, if you've got another TV that's not 3D, you can use it on that, and that'll be in 3D. And I'm now coming to the really wonderful part. This is very difficult to explain. I told you that I'm now wearing my ordinary glasses and I still see in 3D. Now to you wonderful people with perfect eyesight, especially if you're young, with perfect eyesight, you're extremely lucky, because if you use these kind of glasses, as I say, 20p, maybe 10p in a charity shop, you can also make the viewer I was talking about, where you slip the photograph in front and put one lens, cut two old aisles in it, but only a lens in one. You can use it for that. But the big thing is, by the way, this works in the cinema as well. Now, I've never been able to try it in the cinema because of my disability. I can't get around. I can't ride a wheelchair. I can drive a car and I can hobble around a bit up with a crutch. But at the moment, the reason I'm able to do so much at the moment is because I'm on prednisolone. It dampens the immune system, because arthritis is caused by the immune system attacking your own body. Oh, it's still recording. I thought it had stopped recording. And so when I'm using that, or if I have an accident I've had an accident and injured this shoulder, and when that happens, my immune system goes to work on that to repair that shoulder. In fact, it's almost already repaired. I couldn't do that yesterday. I couldn't raise my arm above. I had to cook me dinner, only being able to bend at the elbow, and it's my right hand. I had to lift everything up with my left hand. I had a few accidents. I broke a few things, but I still got me dinner. Well, my wonderful Sunday roast with chicken and all that today. Anyway, I do hope that you watch all this, and if you're bored with something I'm talking about, skip forward until you get to something you're not. The same thing applies to my playlists. I don't know if you realise it, but there's over 400 videos on one website, and I think I'm top of the table for that. And I've not yet reached the 500,000 hits mark. Ludicrous, isn't it? But if you try this and you find it works, now I'm really looking for youngsters. So if you're not a youngster, get a youngster that you know to watch it. And if you go to my playlists, you will find one that says, 3D information for viewing 3D. I've done one how to watch Sky movies in 3D and Sky Sports in 3D without paying Sky for 3D. Because you know what, you got to pay Sky for 3D? Sky World. The last time I heard it was £70 a month. It's probably 80 now. They say, Sky, believing better. I say, Sky, believe in screwing as many of you as we can. And I don't care if they hear this, because it's true. They screwed me. It cost them. I used to have Sky Sports, Sky Movies, and when things got a bit harder, I could only have one or the other. And I used to swap over every month. And I discovered that I could be watching me sports stuff, and when there was no sports on I wanted to watch, like if you only want to watch footy, and in the summer there's nothing on, you can switch to Sky Movies, watch all the Sky movies, or record them. Be warned though, if you record Sky Movies on the hard drive of your Sky Plus box, when you switch to Sky Sports, you not only won't be able to view Sky Movies, you won't be able to view any of the ones you've recorded on there as well. I found that out the first time. The next time, every movie I wanted to keep or have, I copied onto a DVD. Now, you get DVD recorders. They're fairly pricey, but it is possible actually to record on a DVD on a computer. So you must have a computer, you wouldn't be watching this. But you would have to connect up the audio visual in some way. I think if you got HDMI on your TV, you're laughing, because that transfers HD TV and Dolby Digital sound from TV to the DVD recorder, and you can play that back on any TV or your computer, and you can play that on your computer on any TV, because Sky Plus has got HDMI on it. That's called a high definition media interface. And anyway, because of what Sky did to me, you won't believe it, when they came out with Wi-Fi, they're still running the video now saying, oh, how easy it is to connect your Skybox up to the Wi-Fi. All you got to do is do this, do that and the other. And I've tried it all, and it won't work because there is no built-in Wi-Fi on my box. But if you watch this video on Sky, at the end it says, don't worry if you haven't got a built-in Wi-Fi unit. We will give you a free Wi-Fi unit to connect up to your Wi-Fi. And so I applied for this, and they said, oh, the TV's already been connected to the Wi-Fi. I said, no, it haven't. Oh, you've got a TV with built-in, you've got HD Plus, Sky Plus. I said, yes. With those stupid twin leads, you know, they got a twin white lead now, and they're very thin. And they cause interference on other digital channels. I phoned the BBC about it, because the BBC started breaking up one day when they did a upgrade on the scanning the channels, because you have to do that. I saw a message here today where it said that CBS Action is going to be on channel 64 tomorrow. The only thing is, that was a recording I made 4 days ago, and it's still on 70. Anyway, because I rescanned just in case. But I love that channel, and I'll tell you for why. It's showing the original the original Star Trek films digitally remastered and converted to widescreen. Now, when they do that, they do something which puts everything in focus. Now, I don't know if you've noticed on films and television, anything old, when you got a close-up, the background's out of focus, and when you got a background shot, the foreground's out of focus. Well, that is not terribly good with my 3D system. It still works, but it's much better if all the picture is in focus. And the best sort of things to watch are space battles, or looking up something like Madison Avenue, you know, where you can see miles away up there, Madison Avenue, you can see people walking. Footy's great because the people on the football pitch are standing upright instead of lying on the grass. And if you don't believe it, just close one eye and you'll see the difference each time. But if you get... do you remember the cartoon with John Cleese, Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett? Where he goes, I look up to him, he looks up to me, and the three of them are all different sizes and they're all standing one behind the other. The trouble is, in 2D, they're standing side by side. When you see it using my 3D system, you'll see they're one behind the other. That's a big difference. The other difference is, it's true 3D. And when I say true 3D, it is as you really see life. Because the 3D you see in the cinemas today, and that you see on the Sky, using these glasses, which I do not think are good for the brain or the eye, because it's quite complicated for the brain to follow. There's a hell of a lot it's following, switching from one eye to the other 50 times a second. Work it out yourself. It may only be 25 times a second, but I wouldn't mind betting it's 50. I mean, that's only 50 hertz per second. A computer, it's peanuts. But my system is natural because the image is generated by the brain. In other words, your brain generates, because it can't quite see one eye properly, it uses what it sees with the other eye to generate the picture for the eye that's blurred, or it's not actually blurred, it's just slightly defocused. And because of that, it generates what it knows from life things should be. In other words, it knows things that are two-dimensional, and it knows things that are flat. And if a thing is flat, if you're looking at me now, do you see the picture of my cat on the wall? Now, that's a little tiny picture, but if you focus your eyes on that, you'll see that that cat is in 3D, that it goes back into the wall. And that's natural 3D, not this phony 3D. And it does not affect your eyesight. The fact of the matter is that at sometime in the future, you'll be able to do it like me without any glasses at all, or at least just your normal viewing glasses. Because I'm still seeing this in 3D with my ordinary glasses on. So I never did anything about it for all this time, because at first I was terrified of being sued for damaging people's eyes, but from what I can see, I might be doing the opposite, saving people's eyes. Because if anybody... You poor little man. This is my little catty, is it? Unfortunately, she's very old, and I had a terrible accident with her the other day. She's at 90 in cat years, and I thought I'd stepped on her tail because she cried out. Because at my age, I'm not that agile, and I think I must have stepped on one of her back legs. It was quite a while ago now, and of course I was awfully sorry, and I told her I was sorry, and I gave her a hug and a cuddle, and she forgave me. But I think it must have been her leg and not her tail, because now she appears to have arthritis in one leg. But I won't do anything about it, because she doesn't seem to make that much of a fuss about it. She's quite happy. She just lies in the window, looking out the window most of the time, or lying on my bed. She's really spoiled. But she's kept me for 15 plus years company, so I owe it to her. It's got to the stage now where she messes around it. But she's very, very intelligent now. Perhaps that's what she wants the door open. That's my toilet door, and when she pees, she goes in there to pee, because that's where I go. And I've left this place there, and she does it there, and it doesn't spread or anything, and it's just dead easy to take a mop and mop it up. Looks like she might be going in there now. Anyway, that's cats for you. They're quite clever. When we had that cold snap back along, do you know where she spent the night? Back in the freezer. You didn't know that? You might know that the back of a freezer and fridge is hot, because they use what they call a heat converter that transfers the heat from the inside outside. That's how a fridge and freezer works. I've got air conditioning, the same. I've had it, I must have had it 20 years. I installed it myself, so I'll show you how long ago it was. And it's got automatic closing flaps, so that when there's no air, they close. When you put the air conditioning on, they open. This is an outside vent. And if you put your hand out there in the summer, blasting hot air coming out, because all the heat that it's taking from the caravan or mobile home is blown outside. And now you can buy them. They cost, I think, about £169 each. I've got two, one in the bedroom and one in the living room here. Every year I switch them around and give them a bit of a clean up inside. I've only had to make one repair. One transformer failed, and that's because when they're on standby, the transformer is the one thing that's working all the time. That's why you have a small amount of electric used with these things. Is because they call it standing current on a transformer. Losses when you transform from the mains down to 12 volts, because all electronic stuff is usually 12, 25, 6, 5 volts, various voltages. That's what that black box thing that you see on the you know where your plug is, like this. That looks like a plug, but inside that plug is a transformer. Oh, by the way, I'm going to advertise this. This is those G-Tech, ARAM G-Tech vacuum cleaners. It's rather funny because years ago I said to somebody that you could get vacuum cleaners and you could get carpet sweepers. And I said, why hasn't somebody come up with the idea of a combination vacuum cleaner, carpet cleaner? And if you've ever seen the advert for the ARAM on TV, at the moment they've got a special offer, and you can get the two. You can get the $1.99 for the vacuum, and it doesn't have a great big bag or anything. It just looks like a carpet sweeper, and it packs it all into the. If you watch the ad, you know what I mean. They've now got one that you can do your car with and your curtains and things like that, but they want too much for it. They sent me an offer of £99 because I'd bought the other thing and I lost it. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't give it you unless you can give us the code. I always wondered what they meant when they said what's your promotional code, they call it. I now know. And I think I've lost out a lot on promotionals. Because I was one of the first to buy one of these ARAMs, I paid 200 and something for it. I paid more than you do today. I didn't get free delivery. I had to pay for delivery on top of it. It was $1.99 plus delivery, and it came to something like $2.13. That's me. I'm always. I looked at it and I said, that is very clever. It's exactly what I've been looking for. And I've also sold them at 3 in the neighbours around here. I had a cleaner come in to clean them with me, and she picked, what's this? And when I showed her how easy it was to empty, and it's run by a computer. It looks just like a carpet sweeper, and you can plug it into your computer if there's a problem, and it'll tell you what's wrong with itself. You use a URL cable on it, plug it into the computer, it charges itself, you plug it in, and it tells you when it's finished charging, and the light blinks and stops blinking when it's fully charged, and at that time it stops taking juice anyway, so I leave them on all night. They're fairly well designed. There is only one problem that in the future. All these batteries, these rechargeable batteries, I use them for everything. I've got one of those LED torches. They're wonderful. Brilliant light. And the batteries last longer in them than a single light bulb one. And you got 6 of these LED lights in there. And I've got rechargeable batteries in, and I've got a charger here. That's a clever little thing. And I pop them in. You can charge 4 at once, and you can charge a 9-volt battery at the same time. and it will also test them to see if they've charged all right. But if you haven't got a charger, have you ever seen these lights at night that charge up during the day and light up the garden at night, either white or coloured light changing? I've got the ones, I got it set on colour changing all the time, because that's the way TV works. You know, you get all the colours on the TV revolving from blue to green to red, and the mixture of the colours as well. So you get oranges, yellows, and cyans, and like turquoise, and that's the reason you get your colour TV, is only those three colours, red, green and blue. And if you've got red and green, it will give you orange. And if you start adding blue to the orange, it will change it from orange to yellow. If you put all the three together, you get white. Now, if you do the same with paint, if you get red, green and blue paint and paint them, mix it together, you'll get black paint, or as near as damn it black paint. Some shade of grey. Was it 40 Shades of Grey? That really annoys me. Some of these here software people on the telly think it's very intelligent to put grey on grey, grey writing on a grey background. I mean, even people with really good eyesight has trouble reading it. I mean, you got, and it's not as if it's really dark grey on really light grey. It's sort of middle greys on middle greys, just a couple of shades difference. Why they don't use yellow on black, which is the best contrast you can get of. My cat's just gone by limping. I'm going to have a look at her. I treat her myself. I've got healing hands. I haven't, something I haven't talked about, but that's the thing. I don't believe all this rubbish about people can heal and all that. I believe anybody can do it. It's something that, just like we can sing. Everybody can sing, even though everybody can talk, some badly, but everybody can do it, or at least most can do it. It's not like these people are going around saying, oh, they're a healer. I guarantee if you don't believe me, it's a test you can do, especially if you've got a spouse. It's not embarrassing. If there's a pain of any kind in any muscle or anything, place one hand either side of where the pain is, and you concentrate on that particular part of the body, and then say to the person you're doing it to, they should feel a warm flow of heat from one hand to the other. And if that happens, you can do healing. And my opinion is absolutely anybody can do it. It's like doctors. I say if you have faith in a doctor, they're more likely to heal you than if you haven't. If you've no faith in a doctor, it probably won't, no matter what he does, will work. There's another thing about medical, like always going on today, about how antibiotics are becoming less effective. Well, you see, they got it back to front again. They get everything back to front. It's not antibiotics that cure things. Antibiotics help the immune system to destroy things. Now, it doesn't matter what antibiotics you give to a person, if they've got no decent immune system, it won't cure it. And there's no bacterium that will defeat an antibiotic given to a person with a good, strong immune system. And if you've seen any of my other videos, it explains to you why we've got poor immune systems today. It's all these bloody well chemical companies selling you these antibacterial this, that and the other. A home or house should not be a sterile blooming old place like an operating room on a hospital. Clean, yes, but not absolutely sterile, even with kids, because that's where they get their immune system from. And if you their kids grow up in a sterile environment, they'll have no immune system, and bang, along will come some bug, and the doctor will give them an antibiotic, it won't work, and they may wind up dying. Health and safety has gone crazy. And to explain about the 4, we were not designed like that. In fact, we'd all die if there was no bacteria. If you killed all bacteria, everybody would die. For one thing, you wouldn't be able to digest your food. I had a chat with my old doctor about this. I said to him, you know, he said, I'll give you, what's it about, you've got a ear infection, and he said, I'll give you this antibiotic. He said, I don't think it's become non-effective yet. See, they're talking about that it's the bacterium that's mutating and becoming different. It's not. It's the bloody immune system becoming weak. They may be mutating, but even if they're mutating, the immune system will still destroy them with the antibiotic, because it will remember the bug when it's met it before, and it'll notice that it's changed a bit, but that won't stop it, because it will destroy even a different bug. People have been cured of things even though they've been given the wrong antibiotic. If you've got a decent immune system, it doesn't matter what you could probably give everybody a shot of the old penicillin that Alexander Fleming gave to the world. I don't know if you know that, but penicillin was given to the world, the patent, by Fleming. He didn't patent it and screw everybody like these drug companies today. These drug companies today, they ask for charity to research, cancer research, AIDS research. They use your money to research that bloody thing. Then they come up with a drug, charge it so much for it that the NHS can't afford it, and half the time they've used NHS research scientists to discover it. And what do they say? Oh, research and development is very, very expensive. It might be, but they haven't bloody paid for it. I think that these, well, a lot of universities do research into things like cancer and AIDS. But you see, I've had this argument with my doctor today, a couple of days ago. I said, how is it you go on talking about all these different cancers? I said, there's only one cancer. All cancer is a cell that should have died and hasn't died, that keeps growing. Oh no, it's all different. They going on about cancer of the colon, cancer of the pancreas, cancer of the testicles, and testicular cancer. I said to him then, and I said, if that's the case, why is it a person can get cancer of the bowel, and then it spreads to the kidneys, and it spreads to the pancreas, and it spreads to the liver, and it spreads to the kidney, and then they say, oh, she's riddled, or he's riddled with cancer all the way through? Are you telling me that that's a different cancer in each one of them? Because it isn't. It's only the one. And the reason is immune system. Because of the way, since the war, all these companies, all these multinationals with all their washing powders that everything's got to be sterile, bloody well, like you work in an hospital. That's different when you work in an hospital, because you don't want to transmit diseases in the hospital. But in your own home, do you remember years ago when you had your jab, they wiped white spirit or methylated spirit, something like that, over your arm before giving you the jab? So I said to the nurse when she did that, I said, why do you do that? She said, oh, it's to kill all the germs so you don't get infected. I said, they're my bloody germs, aren't they? Well, they've been there all along, how are they going to harm me? Oh, I don't know about that. Now, I go to have the flu jab and they don't give you, they don't do it anymore. I said, doctor, I said, why don't they use the methylated spirits or white spirits anymore when they give you a jab? Oh, well, it's not necessary because the germs won't affect you anyway. I said to him, I said, no, I told you that 20 years ago. None of these inoculations have any effect on me. I was vaccinated with smallpox, diphtheria, infantile paralysis, polio, and all those. And you get a reaction. Nothing that they gave me was any reaction to. And I couldn't understand why. Because all those injections are encourage your immune system to develop a antibody to a particular kind of germ or virus. Even the viruses, they're now discovering that they find injections. If the immune system has come in contact with that in the past, this is why I say, if a child crawling around the floor and all that, don't worry about it. The amount of germs, clean, yes, but sterile, no. Because you want to get a little bit, otherwise their immune system won't build up to it. So if they get a few germs, their immune system, even a little child, I've gone on about babies and birth and that. I say that mothers in their first 3 to 4 months of pregnancy shouldn't take any kind of drug, and I'm talking about tea, coffee, any not just alcohol and smoking and all that. But I also then go on to say, after that 4 months, they should smoke a little, drink a little, and take a little coffee and tea. That's another thing. People stop their little kids from, school children from having coffee. Well, that's wrong. They should be giving a weakened version of what you drink. They shouldn't have the really strong coffee, a milk down coffee, and it's the same with sugar. Not too much sugar. The body will adapt to whatever it needs to adapt to. If the climate change comes about, right, these people are crying about it, and it really does become a climate change, we will adapt to live to whatever the climate comes to. And it's so easy to work it out. Only need a bit of intelligence. You get life in lava in a volcano, and you get life in ice at the Antarctic that's never ever melted. So life can exist at any kind of what's it. It would have to be a horrendous change, climate change, for it to affect us, because the children would adapt as long as the change is slow, which, believe you me, it is slow. It's been going on for years, such a climate change. But it's always been the case, and there is nothing on this planet that's either good or bad for you. That includes all the poisons and everything. The only thing is bad is the amount. Too much of anything is bad. Too little of anything is bad. Now, as kids, we used to pick foxgloves, blow them up and go pop. Now that foxglove goes in the mouth. Now foxgloves contain digitalis. Now, I mentioned this to the doctor, you see. I said it would be an extremely small amount, but we used to, dozens of times, pop, pop, just like they pop crisp packs today. We did it with, you pinch the end of the flower, blow into it, and then bang it on your hand, and it would pop. That meant we were getting minute doses of digitalis, and I think that's why people like me have grown up with a very strong heart, because now they give people with heart trouble digitalis. As I say, everything on this planet can be used for good or used for bad. It's the way it's used that determines whether it's good or bad. It's as simple as that. When I had this diarrhea, the doctor gave me these sachets of stuff to take. She said to me, well, are you taking plenty of salt? Yes, I'm taking twice the salt that I took before. Oh, she didn't believe me. I know she didn't believe me, because she left me with these sachets, and I looked. I only took one of them. I'm glad I didn't take any more, because I've been constipated up until today, and if I'd have took any more, I'd have been constipated until next year. I actually took 2 of laxative, which I haven't used for a couple of years. I looked at them, and they're not out of date until December this year. So I took a couple of them. Yes, and it actually came out today. Thank God for that. Oh, I hate that. You may not know about bodily memory. When I was a teenager in the Merchant Navy, I got constipated, and so large that I split my bowel. I was 3 or 4 weeks in, I'm not sure which, in hospital. I think it was Freedom Fields in those days. Not Derriford, I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole. I'd never go near that place again. I'll be in a box if I do. Anyway, I had to be starved, pumped out, so there was nothing in there. And they sewed it up, and they put a drain tube in, you know, to protect the stitching and all that. They were stitches that didn't have to come out, they dissolved. And after 10 days, they were starting to worry that I hadn't been to the toilet. And I'm wondering whether nowadays my body's remembering this experience, and it shuts down and refuses to let it come out in case it happens again. I did notice there was a small amount of blood. I used plenty of Vaseline to help it. I won't go any further because you'd be horrified at what I did to get it out. And I shall check. I hope that I go again tomorrow, because that's my normal way every morning. When I get up, I take a painkiller, have a cup of tea, and smoke a cigarette. And then I am relaxed and I can go into the toilet and do it. Because pain causes stress, and stress causes high blood pressure. And I thought I'd do a little test. Now, I reckon that most of the problems that are around today were with all this cuts and that, and the government not getting enough cash in, are caused by people stopping smoking. Because, and I don't think that they're saving any lives. Now that may seem daft to you. You see this rubbish on packets of cigarettes. Smoking kills you. Britain's oldest lady died, 114. Smoked all her life. I asked my doctor about this. You see, that's how is it some people go all through life. Nobody knows, he said, and they still don't. And I do. Poor immune system. Of course it is. And that's what cancer is. Poor immune system. If you've got a good immune system, all cancer cells are destroyed before they become cancerous. And the other day I thought, I'll try this out. I was in a lot of pain, which meant I was in a lot of stress, and I checked my blood pressure. Now, I don't know if you know anything about blood pressures, but I took my blood pressure and then lit a cigarette up. And I hadn't smoked before I was a merchant seaman, you see, on tankers, which meant you might go 2-3 hours without having a cigarette. And I took my blood pressure, 168 over 123. That was the blood pressure at the time. I lit a cigarette up and I took another reading after every few puffs or so. At the end of 10 minutes and the end of the cigarette, I only kept the two, the in-between ones. Each one it went down and down. The last reading was 168 over 88. Now, perfect, absolute perfect, ideal blood pressure is 140 over 80. And I've had readings by the doctor in the 90s over, and it still said it was passable. So but that is reckoned to be a perfect one, 140 over 80. So the I think it's the dystolic is 8I, and the systolic is 20 odd I. But that's nothing considering the sort of pain I was still under. I asked the doctor. I said, when he told me what they were, and he said it was okay, I thought they were high. Oh, and the other thing was, my pulse rate was 105 to start with. At the end, it was down to 85. Now, I always thought your pulse rate was 76, because I used to use that as a trick to tell when a minute's gone. Take your pulse and count it up to 76. Wouldn't work on that show, would it? You know, where you have just a minute, where they have to open those locks on the side after 30 seconds. Anyway, whenever I've tried that, I've always succeeded in getting it right within the time. And another thing I'm quite good at is lateral thinking. Doctor told me that I stopped taking all sugars, you see, and he said to me, he said, your body is converting everything into sugar. No, So I thought to myself, oh, is that fairly obvious that my body needs more sugar than most people? Perhaps because I'm overactive and etc. etc. And you're taking away its sugar, so now it's getting it from somewhere else. I mean, first of all, it was a case of it's what they call you know, like starch foods, hydrocarbons, carbohydrates, things like potatoes, bread, you know, and things like that are carbohydrates like sugar. If you see on these recipes, they say carbohydrates such and such a percent of which is sugar. And these companies use umpteen different names: sucrose, fructose. They're all fancy names for sugar. And I queried one of my medications because it contained glucose. I'm going to have a chat about this, because if what I think is right, because I always thought that insulin, the body used insulin to convert sugar into glucose to give you energy, and that is why I refused to take one of the medications called metformin, and I now take a medication called glycoside, because one replaces insulin, in other words puts insulin into you, and they were even talking about having to use injections. And then I saw the pharmacist, and he said, I want you to try. He actually wanted me to have both metformin and glycoside, or glycoside. And I read up the leaflet on this glycoside, and it said glycoside is a medication that assists the body to produce insulin. And I thought, oh, I'm 70 odd years old, I'm 77 this year. I thought, that is fair enough, I'll take that. And I take it, it gives me no adverse side effects at all, no different. And I stopped taking the other one, and the test still came out all right. No, you're okay, your sugar's okay. I got the buggers. So after 3 months I said, is it still alright? Oh yes. I said, good. Then Neil said, thank God for that. I said, I haven't been taking metformin for 3 months. And then what he said, oh, it can last longer than that in the body, and yeah. Anyway, I then had to go another 3 months, and then another test, and it was still okay. And then they said, oh, well, you don't need to take a metformin. I said, because metformin turned me into a zombie, and I'm hyperactive, you see, and I think because my brain doesn't stop working and I'm hyperactive, and I mean, I can't stop. My dad was the same. He retired from his job on the farm, 65, because he had to. He had no house because it was a tied cottage, so he couldn't buy a house, so I bought the house. We shared the cost of it. Very expensive, it cost $1,500, and that shows you how long it was ago, doesn't it? Well, it was late 1960s, 1970s. I can work out. He was born in 2004, so he'd be 65 in 1969. That's how good my maths is, you see. Oh, that's another thing I was going to tell you about. You know that David Cameron got caught out on his maths, his 12 or 13 times 11 or something idiot. Well, I'm now going to tell you a little trick. I don't know if I've told it. I might have told it before, I don't know. But think of two numbers, 10 and 5. Now, to multiply by 10, you simply stick a naught on the end or move the decimal point one place. And the same with 100, you move it 2 places and or 2 noughts on the end, right? Now 5 is 50% of 10 and 50 is 50% of 100, right? So if you're multiplying 13 by 11, that is 10 times 13, 130, right? 1 times 11, 11. 130 plus 11 is how many? 141. And David Cameron couldn't work that out, could he? Now, it gets a little bit more complicated with the 5, but if you're multiplying by 15, you can take any number you like, it doesn't really matter. The principle's the same. If you multiply by 15, you stick a naught on the end. So if you want to take 13 again, 13 is 130. Half of 130 is 65. 65 of 130 is 195. I mean, that's mental arithmetic. I used to annoy the teachers at school because sometimes she'd write a problem on the board. 2 times x, well, not x, but 14 times 3 times 7 times 9 equals, and I would shout out the answer when she said the word equals. And it really infuriated her, because she wanted the whole class to work it out. I once did an exam paper, just writing down the answers. They said, you can't do that. Why not? They're all right, aren't they? This is where I was whizzed when, because you also do mental arithmetic at school, but that is child's play, they're so-called mental arithmetic. But say you, anyway, that's the way you do that now. Say you want to be a 9 instead of 11. You want to buy something by 9. Or it can be 29, it doesn't really matter, or 19. You then go up. So, say 19 times, we'll stick with 13 again, right? Right, 19 times 13 is twice 10 times 13, it's 260, right? What did I say? I've forgotten. Well, 19 times, what were we doing? 29 times 13, wasn't it? 29 times, no, 19 times 13. 20 times 13 is twice. Anyway, what you do, you multiply by 10, double it, so 130 doubled is 260. This is the way I should have done in the first place, isn't it? But you then got to take away the 1, because it's not 20, is it? It's 19. So 260 minus 13, 253, isn't it? And you can do this with any number. And it is slightly more complicated if you're dealing with 2 numbers. I don't know really. 17 and 19, or I don't know, 17 and 14, or something like that. Whereby the trouble is with 14, you're 2 away from 1 away from 15. So that's 1 away from 150%. So whatever the number is, you add a naught, add on half, and take away 1. It sounds very complicated, but once you start doing it, I mean, just do it for fun, to show how clever you are. Just do the easy ones, 9 and 11 or 12. It doesn't really matter what the other number is. I mean, it can be 56 or 57 or 59 multiplied by 11. It still works out the same. 59, stick a naught on the end, it's 590. It's a little more complicated, so you're going to take away 59, but you don't. You take away 69 and add on 1. Take away 60 and add on 1. You get the idea? It's so easy. Anyway, I better pack up now and get myself. I'm just going to make a cup of my frothy coffee. And one of the things I said was, it's a science again. It's pretty obvious to some people, but not others. I say, put a coffee mug, fill it up to half an inch from the top, definitely no further. Do you know why? Because when it gets on, it expands, and then you don't want it to will bubble up and go over. Not only that, the microwaves agitate everything and froth it all up, just like you do with those steam things in coffee shops. But I made a cup this afternoon, and I took half a block of chocolate, just a tiny, one of those chocolate squares, grated it with a cheese grater on top of it afterwards. But the secret, it works best with sweetener instead of sugar, because it's a powder, and the coffee mate, or coffee white, any kind of coffee white, you put water in. If you're using instant coffee, if you want to make it with ground coffee, you have to make the coffee and let it go cold. In other words, you make a cup of coffee in the morning, and then you leave the rest to go cold, and then you can make a frothy cup later on. That's what I used to do anyway, but no, I was getting lazy. I switched to instant. But all you do is take a level teaspoon of coffee powder, dunk it into this mug of water, cold water, don't stir, put the spoon in, add sweetener or sugar if you must, and then coffee white to completely cover the top of the coffee. Leave the spoon in there. If you don't want to, I don't care, you can take it out. The only difference is, instead of microwaving for 130, 140 seconds, you'll probably find you need to go 152 minutes. Because putting a spoon in there makes it boil quicker. Science! Just like water expands. Why do you think pipes burst? Because ice expands when the pipe freezes up. People say to me, how is it when it melts back that the water comes out? It doesn't come up, water doesn't come out when it's frozen. No, it's the freezing that splits it, and then when it thaws, there's a hole there for it to pour out of. Anyway, that's all I've got. I'm going to have myself a cup now, and I'm off. Oh, heck, I got an idea I might have already got a cup in the microwave that I forgot about. I made and didn't drink it. I'll have to reheat it. That's the beauty of coffee in the microwave. If you reheat in 1 minute's enough. But always, if you make a frothy coffee, always, whether the spoon's in or not, watch the first time you do it. Don't take your eyes off it. And press the button as soon as you see it foaming up. And there's another little thing. Do you know why those little holes are in the grill at the front of a microwave? Do you? They are very, very precise. because they are at holes are exactly the diameter and spacing of the frequency of the microwave that they're using to block it. So you'd think, looking in like that, that microwaves could come out at you, but that grid is specific. If they put the grill in that's wrong, you know, the holes are too big, you can cook yourself. One of the stupid things is said on the instructions about this: do not microwave with the door open. Well, have you ever tried microwaving with the door open? It won't work until you close the door. Health and safety, you've got a safety catch on that. One of the few good things that they do. Yeah, it's compulsory to have a cutout. And by the way, check to see that you have no more than a 10 amp fuse. Most microwave will run on 10. I've run a microwave on 5. I haven't checked this. I got a brand new one now, because the last one I had, the so-called enamel was bloody enamel paint, and the wheels going round has worked it all off, and it's rusted out, and the bottom fell out of it, and it's only just over 12 months old. Now I couldn't be bothered with it because it was only 50 odd quid or something. And it was not a make I'd ever heard of before. The trouble is, today you can't even. People say, "Oh, Goodman's." It's a Goodman's. I've got a Goodman's bitstream. It's Freeview box. Now, it probably has nothing whatsoever to do with Goodman's. These people Goodman's were the best speakers in the world. You know, all these expensive Marshall amplifiers, all these big pop groups used to use and all that, they were all Goodman speakers in those days. When I was playing in a pop group, if you had to have a Goodman speaker. But I wouldn't say, well, a Goodman's television and a Goodman's microwave got nothing to do with Goodman's at all. They simply sell the name, like the brand name, isn't it? And simple people see that and think, oh, it must be good, it's Goodman's. But it's not. And I'll tell you another little trick. I bet you've walked around supermarkets and that and seen batteries that says ever ready. Oh, you think they're ever ready? That must be good. Take another look at that battery next time you see one, and you will see it is not ever ready. It's Eve ready. EVE. There's no second R. But when you look at it, you think, oh, that's ever ready, don't you? That comes close to being a copyright fraud or a branding fraud. I don't know whether you still can get real ever ready, but I stock nothing else, as I say, and they were cheaper than Tesco's. I thought 25% was a nice, sensible markup. I did the same. I might have been breaking the law in those days, because some of these things you weren't allowed to. You had to sell them at the retail price. But the other trick I used to do was I was friends with the rep, and he would come round to me a couple of days before the price increase, and I would get a year's supply of stock. Of course, people say, oh, batteries, they won't last long. Rubbish! They'll last 2 to 3 years on the shelf. And I was only doing them for a year. I bet you some of the supermarket stuff, they buy so much of it to get the price reduced. And they still couldn't beat my price. Because that's the way supermarkets work. They force the people prices down to the farmers and the people that produce the goods. That's the trouble with the world today. The big wages go to the people that do the least work. The people that actually produce the goods get the lowest wages. Somebody like Cameron can say, oh, these people that got all these jobs and all that, and they don't have to pay any tax. We've taken them out of tax. Rubbish. Everybody should be earning enough to pay tax. If you don't pay tax because you don't earn enough, I mean, part-time, fair enough. But if you're working full-time, you should be able to, you should be earning enough to pay tax. It's not right. I mean, it makes you feel bad that you're not making enough to be able to pay tax, doesn't it? You like to think you're contributing. Well, I know I'm contributing. You know, I buy a packet of fags now. I actually buy a carton of cigarettes, right? It used to be a 200 carton. How many do you think's in a carton of cigarettes today? Well, the ones I smoke are Pall Mall. And there's 180. That is to say, one whole packet of cigarettes has disappeared. 20 cigarettes. And the price has gone up to near enough £7. And I'm sure after this budget they'll be approaching £8, and probably another cigarette disappear. And the cost of tobacco to the plantations overseas that grow it, they're almost bloody slaves still, the wages that they get. And not only that, it goes even worse than that. The packaging, you know, how tight they pack the tobacco. If you don't smoke, you won't know this. But if you take a Super King cigarette and tap, 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 it will lose at least a quarter of an inch. And it'll be smaller than a king size. And if you do the same with a king size, it'll lose a quarter inch as well. It is strange, but one day it'll go a quarter inch, another day it'll only be an eighth of an inch, another day it'll be even more, because they set the factory up at the start, and they can set it running what they like. But they are causing I'm sure they're causing fires, because the number of times I've been smoking, I'm more likely to die in a fire than from cancer, that's what's certain. The head, the red burning bit, drops off. And very often it drops down there. That was caused by a bloody cigarette. I couldn't find out where it was till it had burnt so much. You're getting less tobacco in the cigarettes. They're actually making more money now than they were before the crusade against smoking started. And shall I tell you what? I can't do a survey, but I'm willing to bet that more people are dying from overweight than are dying from smoking. Especially that poor old dear, that poor lady that smoked all her life. Oh, she shouldn't have done it. I mean, she would have lived to be 190 if she hadn't. 114, wouldn't it? If you worked out according to their Watson, you lose 10 minutes off your life for every cigarette. I'm already past the 100 mark. Rubbish. Nothing on this earth is either good or bad. And I think that when a woman's pregnant, she should start smoking after the 4th month. I don't mean she should start smoking 20 a day. I mean she should have the odd cigarette. And kids at school should have the odd cigarette beyond the shed like we used to do. because your immune system builds itself up to this. And as I explained just now, no matter what happens to the environment, we'll adapt to it. If you read Darwin, if you know anything about Darwin, that's exactly the way we were designed. Whether you believe we were designed by accident or designed by an almighty being. That's another thing I don't have. Oh, I've already told you that. I don't care which it is. I can assure you that so long as you get things in small doses, I mean, the only thing that's the danger is addiction. Oh, you get terrible addiction to nicotine. They're all addictive. Food, alcohol, God, everything is addictive. Too much of anything is bad for you. Too little of anything is bad for you. It's getting the right amount. And I think well, it's 9:30. I'm going to pack up now. I'll say goodbye to you. I don't know how long I've been. Oh, I do. I can see here 1 hour 51 minutes. Well, I did tell you at the beginning, you can stop anytime you like and go back to it and start off at the place where you finished. Otherwise, I've got to go and cut it up into little bits, and I don't like that. But if you want to find out about me, I've now, not so long ago, put up videos that were put up in little clips previously, and I've put them up as they were. I'm talking about my movies, 8mm movies, shot in colour, between 1957 and 1963. And there's one, if you watch the entire What's It, there's 2 weddings in it. One's a cousin of mine, and you'll see me, I think 63, that would make me 26. And I'm the spitted image of a young Tom Hanks, except this was before he was born. So therefore he was a spitted image of me. But if you look at my Teddy Boy picture, Teddy Boy Eddie, where I'm chatting the girls up, the grammar school girls up, I think they wanted a bit of rough. They were fighting over me in my Teddy Boy suit. And I'm still going on here, aren't I? And but watch that film all the way through, and you'll learn a hell of a lot about me. And I've also got a feature film of me in the Merchant Navy, everything I shot overseas, and the shots of Japan, I couldn't afford all the film. It cost me a week's pay for one film, 10 minutes. Well, certainly Japan, Tokyo, and Osaka. There's lots of places I went to. Oh, USA, going over the Tacoma Bridge in a taxi. That's the replacement that replaced the bridge. Do you remember the video of the wobbly bridge destroying itself? The movie. Have you ever seen that? The Tacoma Bridge. Because of designers, they designed it the wrong bloody way, didn't they? They had all these wires coming down, you see, of all these different lengths. But the stupid idiots got them at lengths that were the same frequency as the wind. Now, have you noticed on my guitar lessons, I show you how if you strike one string of a guitar and press it, and it's the same note as another string, the other string will vibrate as well. Science. And that's what happened. And then, after all that, the Millennium Bridge was done the same. That's why that Millennium Bridge, do you remember it? 2000, the Millennium Bridge, it was doing, yeah, when everybody was walking across it and exactly the same thing. The frequency of the people walking matched the frequency of the bridge, and you get oscillation between frequencies. And you can demonstrate this yourself. Whenever if you have a radio, I don't know if it'll work on modern TVs, but if you've still got an old TV with a tube in it, and you put an analog radio alongside it, it'll whistle like hell. That's interference from one frequency to another. And you know, when you hear the noise of a jet, you got 4 jets. You know, like these jumbo jets, they have 4 jets, don't they? Well, the frequencies between of each engine, because they're turbines, each turbine has a note, and when you put two engines side by side, if they ain't got them right, they can destroy each other. And you will notice that when you put all the 4 engines on, the sound changes because the 2 frequencies are different and they mix together, and so long as you've got 2 different frequencies, they'll produce a 3rd frequency. That's why if you ever listen to it, was even better on the propeller planes, when 2 propellers are running together. The 2 would have different notes, because if they didn't, you'd be in trouble. Because whenever you have 2 frequencies the same, it's called the resonance frequency. So that when you produce, and this is, if you have this is where it was used. They tried to make a weapon out of it, low frequency sound. If you have a house or like a car, I get it with this caravan. When certain engines of certain frequencies, my mobile home becomes like a speaker box. So resonates to the note. If you've got any 2 things that are of a size, and as I say, you can destroy them like the bridge destroyed. If you get at exactly the right frequency and enough energy, you can destroy through resonant frequency, because whatever it is tries to vibrate in tune with that frequency. Goodbye and enjoy this. Must be over 2 hours now. Oh no, still got a couple of minutes, but I'm going to pack in now anyway. But I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope that you will watch some of my stuff, and not only watch it, try it, and tell other people. Although I must admit, lately, things have been popping up a bit. I've been jumping about 400 hits a day now. But, if only one person... By the way, the reason for this 3D is I hate multinationals. Especially when they don't pay their taxes. That's even worse. So, do me that favor. That 3D will destroy these companies, and I know what they're going to try and do. That's why I wanted to get this patent. They're gonna get me to try and stop you from using it. That's why I'm getting the patent, you see. And they'll probably offer me $1 billion, but they don't know me, you see. I can give a shit about money. I'm quite happy doing this. I'd be bored to tears if I had nothing to do. Have you noticed how long I've been here and haven't been smoking? Well, I'll go and sit down, have a cup of coffee and have a smoke now. What's wrong with that? It's only when you're addicted to a thing that it becomes bad. And sex can be addictive and can kill as well. Too much of anything, if you're addicted to it, is bad. And, oh, there's one other thing I wanted to mention that really annoys me. Have you noticed all these bloody gaming companies and bingo companies deposit £10 and we'll give you £100 to play with? That is no different to a drug dealer giving a woman 3 or 4 injections of heroin to get her hooked, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. I'm quite happy if you play a game. That is to say, I used to take my mum to bingo. She loved her bingo, but it was only 10p, and the entire bloody evening I put more in the fruit machine, and she played at bingo, and she would win occasionally. But it doesn't really. You must forget about the winning, and you must never gamble what you haven't got. Now, I used to gamble fruit machines because they were computers. There's a couple of fruit machines that I actually destroyed by beating them at their own game. One of the things they used to go high, low, you know, 1 to 10, and then it would come up 9, and you go low, and then 10 would come up. Smart ass would go high, and 10 come up. Of course, that means the next go, you guaranteed to go down low. Because I think like a computer thinks, or like the designer of the computer would think. And one machine I played, you could press the buttons to stop the reels, and I got so good at it that I completely emptied the machine out in the night, and that was the most stupidest thing I ever did. I just should have took half of it and then left and come back a week later when it was full up again, and then take half of it out again. Because you know what happened, don't you? It went away, disappeared somewhere else. These companies. And another thing is, all these TV programs saying, join our competition. We are giving away 20,000, 60,000, 10,000. We are giving. They're not giving away anything. It's your money they're giving to somebody else. And not only that, they're taking 100,000 and giving away 50. What do you think this £1.50 on the phone call is? It's gambling. Do you know why they do it? Because they don't have to pay tax on it. If it's a competition, it's not taxable. But if I had the opportunity to talk to Ed Miliband, I would tell him the first thing to do is to put a tax on all gambling winners. Even the lottery winners that win 6 or 7 million. Somebody won 64 million on the European lottery. Great, because that's taking bloody money off Europe. And this country are going to be so thankful to Gordon Brown that he didn't take us into the Euro. They're going to want him back before long. Anyway, that's it. I must say goodbye, and I'm going to have a coffee and some chocolate, because I'm allowed the luxury of chocolate occasionally, even though I'm diabetic. It's only type 2. I actually think it's just a con to get money out of me. But anyway, I'm about to switch off. Stop recording. Oh God. Original. Continue. I messed this up.